Hey guys, this is Reese from Powerlifting Talks, and today's video is going to be all about how to really not overcomplicate your lifts. Now, what does that mean? Well, for example here, if you're teaching someone a lift, there's obviously a lot of little aspects, and when I talk about lift, I mean the big three, the bench, squat, and deadlift. That's what we're talking about right now. So, it can be really easy to overcomplicate things. I can't lie. I'm not a great coach when it comes to in person because for me, my brain's all fast, 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 fast. Think, 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 like just explain, explain, explain. But a lot of the time, you gotta really slow it down. Now, this can be when you're actually lifting, it can be when you're explaining the lift, it can mean all that stuff. You might notice nowadays in my warm up sets here, I really try to do my slow lifts. Like, look at this deadlift here. This I know it's going fast there, but still doing a pause, and even on the eccentric, I try to really slow it down so I can really feel everything out. Now let's go back to cues. So cues can be great, and I've talked about them a lot, but I there is a point where they can be bad and where they can easily overcomplicate things. So, for example, somewhat recently, I've talked about this before, but anyway, somewhat recently, I saw a guy in squats who was like, hey man, this is probably the easiest fix you can do without overcomplicating it. And that cue for him was pushing his hips back before he started his squat. It was always hips before knees, which I like to say. And he would do like his first set afterwards. It was like, okay, that was better. He kind of got it. But then, like, by his third set, he did his first like 3 to 4 reps like perfect. And then it's like I can almost see the gears turning in this guy's head, where he was like pushing on his back and then like kind of putting them back forward and then going to squat like he overthought about it. Now, that's when he took the cue a little too literally. I mean, especially with that kind of cue, it's normally really easy. But again, I'm not going to make fun of everyone. Some people just struggle to learn the movements more than others. And that's totally fine. That's just how we are. We're all different. We're all special. Now, what I would have done nowadays, I'd just be like, you know what? Just just be aware of it. Now, awareness and focusing on something are very different. Now, for that guy squatting, what I should have done is be like, hey, just be aware of what body parts are being moved to start the lift. Now, I don't want you to overthink this, but just try to visualize every single time before you squat. My knees should not be the first thing that's moving. Now, I might mention here, very advanced squatters will almost kind of combine the hips back with the squat, where like it's almost one fluid motion. But I'm not gonna lie, this is hard. This is kind of hard. I don't even do this because it's kind of really advanced, and really the only benefit of doing it that way is you're spending less time standing up at the bar, which in itself is somewhat fatiguing in like the grand scheme of things. So it's a really scary technique to do because you can really easily lose balance. Now, anyways, again, I would just tell him just be aware that your knees should not bend first. Maybe that would help him more. Maybe that could also confuse more people. This is why I like to talk about powerlifting so much. It is so person to person. I've said this before and I'll say it again. One program or one technique or one form change will not work for everyone. It just won't. That's just not how lifting works. We're all unique. We're all unique, like for our body lengths, for our arm lengths, hip lengths, all that stuff. We're all different. So not every one thing's going to work for everyone. But we do know the general principles of what does work, and that's what's important. So, cues, they can be complicated, they can get complicated. Now, what I started to do recently is just be aware of it. Either look back on my film, be like, okay, this is what I could do better here. I'm just aware of it. Now, I've talked about this a couple times, and I'll keep talking about it because I think it's so important. Is your setup into your lifts? For example, when I deadlift here, I'll kind of like almost shrug my arms up and then try to make them long and then slowly grab the bar and just kind of feel all the muscles that I know I'm going to be using. For squat here, I don't think I did it right here, but I kind of push myself into the bar, push out, and then dig my shoulders into the bar. For bench, I'll kind of put my arms out, swing them like 2 times, fall into the bench, And I do a very specific thing every single time before I lift. Now, for me, not only does this just help me get into the zone, but once I've started that, my mind is absolutely nowhere else. I'm not thinking, I'm not overcomplicating things. I'm like, we are just gonna lift. Right now, I'm just gonna squat. And that's it. My mind is almost clear, it's empty. I'm almost in a meditated kind of state. Now, if you're focusing on a cue, you might not be in this state. So, what I'd like to say to people nowadays is just be aware. Before I have done my thing to get myself into the lift, I'm like, okay, for this set of squats here, this is what I'm going to be aware of. Just aware. I'm not focusing on it, I'm aware of it. That's two different things, okay? You can be subconsciously aware of something, or you can be very consciously focused on them. Now, generally speaking, unless you're very, very new, I don't want you being focused on anything. The only thing you're focused on is the lift as a whole. Now, that's very, very important. Um, yes, so cues, they can be great for learning stuff. And in fact, the more I say the word cue right now, the more I don't like it. In fact, I probably want to make a new word. And I guess that new word for me is just awareness. So instead of telling people, hey man, push your hips back, like focus on that before you squat, I'm going to say, hey man, just be aware your knees shouldn't bend first. Put them hips back. It's so many people, I mean, so many people in the gym. Let's say they have a gym partner or something, and they like go from talking straight into the lift. I don't even care if it's the big three. You could be doing bicep curls. It doesn't matter what you're doing. What matters is that you're 100% concentration on the movement itself. This generalization of how to improve, I find, has been working so much better because it's so easy to overcomplicate. Another good example, outside of the big three lifts, something I used to really do for my arm days, which I've stopped doing, is regular barbell preacher curl. I do dumbbell preacher curl right now because I think it's slightly better. But something I was over fixated on was, okay, I can either lean forward to make it a little harder, but I know if I lean back, I'm cheating. So then I'd start to lean forward, but then my leaning forward would be inconsistent. So my reps would be inconsistent from week to week. So it'd be really hard to know if I'm actually progressing. That was not good. I was over fixated. I should have just been like, okay, just don't lean forward, don't lean back, just hurl. And if I would have went in with that mindset, maybe my barbell preacher curl would be a lot better. My easy bar preacher curl, I should say. Now, that little just mindset change, I think is huge. And it's something I'm always going to be doing going forward. That's what I think you guys should be doing. If you're kind of worried about, man, I don't think I'm doing this right, like, I'm not putting enough leg drive in when I'm benching. Before you start your lift, remember, always have something you do, lock yourself in. And before you get in that lock in, even say it out loud if you need to. Just speaking out loud has such an awesome way of just ingraining what you say like into yourself, if that makes any sense. You're like, okay, hey man, hey Reese, before we bench, remember, leg drive, I am pushing outwards, for example. Then I'm locked in. So that last thought I had was that cue. Now I'm just generally aware of this before I go and lift. That's the main topics today. I just kind of want to get in really quickly. My last leg day, I titled as pause squats and pause deadlifts. This day was actually that. And just watching myself right now, definitely gonna pause a little longer with my squats. The weight was good. The intensity was just perfect. But yeah, that's it for the today. Be aware of stuff. Don't over hyper fixated on it. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next one.